Is this the way to go live on YouTube Studio? I'm not sure. Still, I think I'll have to manage some configuration on camera. I'm not sure what makes those noise on image. Okay, it seems I'm live without any users or views. What about audio? Audio property. Is the audio working fine? Let me know someone. I think this live will start very soon. As I understand these simple basic mechanisms, I think I'm live. This is my desktop system and it is using more than 50 years old technology. See, migration from X11 to wayland may be cool, but not enough to compete with Win32k.sys. Let me show you what about Windows. Windows, it use Win32k.sys. And the system I am using is some kind of arch-based distribution. NeoFetch was my preferred way, but I see NeoFetch is not available. What are the application available? Let me search on the internet. First fetch. Okay, first fetch. Can I install first fetch? Yes, first fetch is installed. It seems like it is a arch-based distribution, but it is using GopiWM under the hood. For now, it is using the kernel arch, few flatpak packages and few pacman packages. Along with that, I am having Nix packages and app images. Those are not showing over here. It feels so cool, but it is not performant enough. What do I mean by that? For Windows, the kernel handles the GUI, but in any Unix-like operating system, the display manager and window maker all are separate applications. There was a concept called time sharing. That was the basically birth of remote computing. That means anyone can log into a server with a terminal, physical hardware-based terminals, and they can compute on the remote system. But you cannot log in with a GUI system. Let me show you an example. Like, what if I want to log into this desktop? This is on GopiOS x86 64. I can do any operations. That means I can do any kind of computation only using CLI, but I will not be able to use as a remote desktop operating system. Yes, I know there are XRDP and other implementations are also there, but it is not nearly good enough as compared to RDP. See, this piece of desktop is using 12 GB of dedicated VRAM and 15 GB of shared GPU memory. This is the era of GUI applications. It is not 1970s, so that you can type and calculate your computational needs. The mainframe era was around 1956. GM introduced those type of mainframe related systems. I think 1959 was the year when memo system was introduced. That was basically the birth of time sharing system. Later on, CTSS, that means compatible time sharing systems, that was introduced by MIT. The modified and improved version came from Dartmouth University, that was called DTSS. It also came with a basic programming language. Later on, 1965, Multics project came. If you see all those VSD, Unix, Linux, all those can be connected to the base Multics project that eventually became UNIX on the Bell slab. Around 1970s, that was the biggest milestone. As our teachers used to say, like, it felt having a great power. Suppose you are having a CRT terminal. It is very cheap on that time, but you could connect to a bigger system. It's like having a bigger server on the home. So you could connect to a remote server and do your computational works. Around 1984, that means 2 years before I born, at MIT Labs, X Windows system was born. That means someone created X Windows system. By the way, I have heard Xerox also introduced similar GUI related operating systems in their office, but it did not become mainstream. When Linus Torvalds gave the kernel to GNU project, it becomes a GNU operating system with Linux kernel in it. That was the birth of PTY. It's similar to TTY. If you type Control Alt and F3, F4, F5 or F6, you could connect to the TTY directly without a GUI operating system. If you follow the full name teletype, you could understand back then people used to connect to the computer using teletype writer. So this piece of technology we are using to use our system, whether you are using FreeBSD, OpenBSD, NetBSD, Linux, whatever you use under the hood, those technologies are so old. Let me say something good about Microsoft. I know Unix like system users and digital freedom seeker people like me should care more about desktop GUI. They used to flaunt their keyboard mastery and minimum mouse involvement. But the era has changed. It's time to wake up and create a GUI capable operating system. Few days ago, I was trying to do exactly the same. And why I choose Rust as the programming language, not C? That's because I followed the Windows pathway. Around 1993, the foundation of Windows NT 3.1 was laid. That means they tried to concretize the GUI within the kernel. The final foundation was at 1996 with Windows NT 4. That was basically the birth of win32k.sys. That file was single-handedly created all those GUI and GUI related API and ABIs into their kernel itself. I could not forget how easy and reliable the Windows XP was. I was having a great system on one place and I could use that Windows XP system from multiple other systems by simply using thin clients. It gave me a vibe like I'm using a supercomputer on my basement, and each and every one of us used to do programming work, image manipulation, word processing, internet surfing, each and everything. At least 4 or 5 other people used to join that. Around 2006, the era was Vista era, and they introduced desktop window manager. I think around that time, the DirectX was also gained some much more popularity, and it got some major bumped up according to functionality, modularity, performance. Windows 8, 10 onwards, Windows 10, 19 on afterwards, the program called RDP started getting banned. If you search RDP wrapper, this project was last released 9 years ago. That means somebody told them not to continue this development. I do have some basic instinct behind that. Like Microsoft started their cloud infrastructure business and they provided RDP from their servers only. So each and every Microsoft update stopped providing RDP for multiple users and multiple sessions. Let me give you an example why GUI is necessary. I have an application called Upscaling. If I open that, by the way, it is also available as app image, but I cannot use that app image on a remote system to do my work. Suppose I want to improve this image quality. This application is very simple. I know I could do this by using a CLI or remote terminal, by using some kind of LLMA or Olama kind of application, but it is so easy that I click. It takes less than 2 seconds to process all those image manipulation. See the difference, how clean and improved the image is now. This is before, this is after. Those are the reason why we need a good GUI operating system. Windows is unique among major mainstream operating system in containing structural GUI and remote desktop, routing machines directly at the kernel level. I wonder how I create win32k.sys capability on this piece of code base. This will be GopiOS version 3. Now it is GopiOS. Now I am on GopiOS version 2. This GopiOS version uses Linux 6.2 CashOS LTS kernel. You get all those Linux and Unix related capability along with stability. This is a good example. Like if I log into this system, I am having i5 10th generation CPU. It is based on desktop, and right now I am on a laptop system that is also a 10th gen i5 system, but it is laptop. That means I could gain a much performance boost by just using this system. remotely, but I'm limited only to use CLI. Okay, there is some announcement. Someone in my team is working on a project that's called movie browser. I think more than millions of movies are there, and he have managed to gather all those movie informations, especially the basic name, title, similar descriptions, some related images, along with the cast and crew. All those data would be going to the Silicon Pin Data Hub repository, and all those will be connected to our free API system also, so that anyone can get all those data for free and paid. For free there would be some limitations, and if you pay to use those services you will get much more benefit.